Let's break down my synth drone patch that I created with the AX8. The idea with this is that most of the time I'm playing in drop C and playing in the key of C minor. So I wanted the note C and then A flat and then F. Mostly because I love the way those three notes sound from the scale. You know, they give you the 1, the flat 6, and the 4. So those chords, they're probably my favorite chords to solo over ever, but obviously there's some limitations with the synth block in the AX8, so I just went for single droning notes. Anyway, let's have a look in AX8. We'll look at the patch, and then I will run you through how I went about creating this, basically. So there's probably better ways to do this out there. This was just the first way that I came up with that worked for me. But across the top row here is just a preset I made using the USA lead. So we have got a drive block and then the amp block, which is a USA lead Bright Plus. Then I've got Justin York's free 212 IR, which you can find on the forum. It really sounds awesome. I'm digging that one. And then a delay block. And then I always just have the looper at the end, just because, you know, if I'm sitting around noodling and practicing, I want to loop something off the fly. That's really handy, but the looper's not important for what we're doing. Then down here, I've got the synth block and a phaser block. The reason I chose a phaser was I just wanted some movement happening with the synth, so a bit of swirl. So the phaser settings I've got on script 45. That's not too important for what we're doing. Let's analyze what the synth block does, but first let me rehash what I was doing. Scene 2 is going to give me a low C note, scene 3 is going to give me a low A flat note, and scene 4 is going to give me an F note, and it sounds like this. So the way I am doing this is I've got the synth block being triggered by different scenes. It's off in scene 1 and it's on in scene 2, 3, and 4, and then I'm controlling the frequency of the synth using scene controllers. So in order to dive into that, let's have a little bit more of an in-depth look at what I've got set up in the synth block. So you can see the mix is about 65% just to balance that with my guitar sound. And I'm using 3 voices here. Don't worry about the frequency for now, we'll get to that in a second, but a saw wave on voice 1, a square wave on voice 2, and another square wave on voice 3. You also notice that with voice 2, I've got this filter here. So what I've done is I've attached the LFO to sweep from 740 to 6000 Hertz on voice 2, just to give it that kind of classic 70s wah kind of thing happening. Why did I just make that noise with my voice? Of course I'm going to come back and edit this and make myself look like an idiot. But anyway, moving on. So I've got those 3 voices. I haven't really changed too much in the actual synth block itself, but you will notice that I've got tracking set to off in each of these 3. Basically what that does is, if tracking's set to off, then when I turn the synth block on, it's just going to generate a tone determined by the frequency. So to figure out how to change those frequencies, we're going to right-click the frequency tab under voice 1. You have to do this for voice 1, voice 2, and voice 3 separately, and that's a little bit annoying, but you know, the reward's well worth it in my mind anyway. So let's have a look. What I've done is I've attached the Scene Controller 2 modifier to this. We're going to have a little bit more of a look at that in a second. And then the minimum frequency is at 65.12 Hertz, which roughly corresponds to a low C. And the maximum frequency, well, this is the wrong way around. Kind of ignore that they say minimum and maximum. The lowest note I've got in there is a low F, which is about 44 Hertz. And what we have to do from there is we've set the highest and the lowest tone. We go into our Scene Controller menu. So we'll have a look at Scene. You can see here Scene 1 is on 0. That doesn't matter because the block's off in Scene 1. Then Scene 2, I've set the modifier to 0. So that means that it's going to play the minimum frequency, which is 65 Hertz. And that's the low C. Then you can see here in Scene 4, that's going to play whatever the maximum was. So in this case, it's 44 Hertz. Again, I apologize that I've got those the wrong way around. That can seem really confusing. And then, to get that A flat note, I basically sat there with the scene controller and put on scene 3 and I twisted this value until it sounded in tune with my guitar. Turned out that a value of 60% got me there. So, have a listen to this. When I hit scene 2, the synth block turns on because of the way scenes work, and then because the tracking is set to off in the synth block, it's going to activate the synth, and the scene controller is going to say, hey, do 0%, basically hit the minimum value, which was 65 Hertz, which is C. Does it work? Fantastic, that worked. If I hit scene 4, that's going to be my F. And you can hear that scene 3 got me to the right note, A flat. Now, one thing that I thought was cool, because in the modify menu, I'll show you over here, when you right click, in order to change these frequencies, you actually have to do it manually. You can't just type in the precise, you know, really low C frequency. You have to do it manually. So that was a little bit frustrating, and you have to do it 3 times. So you have to do it on voice 2 and you have to do it on voice 3. But what I kind of found was cool with that was that I set these frequencies to be a little bit out of tune with one another. You can see there that I've set it to 65.33 for voice 3 and 65.12 for the other two. So what this is going to create then is this detuning effect. So you can hear, especially with the low F. So I'm a huge Rush fan. I was always obsessed with the Moog Taurus pedals. In fact, I went and bought a set of MIDI bass pedals and a synthesizer that I used to run with my rig, and it all just became too much. You know, I can't really take that stuff on a plane with me with my guitar and my normal rig, so I could never tour with it, so I basically gave up on it. But now, I can do it all in the AX8. And of course, you can use this approach, having a minimum frequency and a maximum frequency, to whatever you want. Go on Google and look up pitch to frequency if you're unsure about what the frequencies are. You can do it in any key, and I think it sounds awesome. And you can blow people's minds, you know, whether it's at a concert or you're just showing your buddies at a rehearsal or something like that. And that is how we set up synth drones in the AX8. If you like this video, please check out my other videos and consider subscribing. 70s wah, 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 wah.